And we are back with day 15 of Survivor 46 and 46. I just finished watching Survivor China. Todd just won in a very we're gonna touch on tribal soon, but Todd just won. Today I'm joined by returners from 42 and 42. We have Carly and John Farrell. Both of y'all going right into it. I know that both of you rewatched this leading up to this. We'll start with Carly. Compared to the first few times you've watched it and this most recent time, does it get better as you watch it more, or is it just like does it stagnate at in the middle, or does it drop?
So to be honest, I chose this season to do for this because I hadn't watched this in years. Like I couldn't really remember how it goes down. There's a lot of people on the season who return later on, so like I kind of knew the narrative there. Not my favorite season. Pre-merge is very boring to me. And then it starts to pick up about round 2 of merge, I thought. But it was kind of a long time. Yeah, it took a long time to get there. Once I was there, I was like, okay, like I'm having fun. But getting to that point was a little bit painful.
John?
I'll partly agree with that. I'll say pre-swap was boring. Once you get to swap, and then you get really like the whole like tribes actually wanting to throw challenges and like legit fully throwing, which I got good laughs out of. And listening to James.
So did Jamie and PG.
Listening to James say fuck
you're right.
Sudoku.
That wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It's such an iconic line. Just fuck Sudoku. Pay attention.
Yeah. And then they're literally just oops and just throwing the pieces away. And then watching them literally figure out the whole entire idol situation, and then taking apart the rest of camp, thinking that everything was going to be an idol. And then it just I got to rekindle my hatred for John Robert.
We'll touch all on John Robert.
That's a start to finish thing. But I mean, he's the arrogant asshole of the season.
Putting it lightly.
He's not even a villain. He's just an asshole. So,
Carly, what were you saying?
I was going to say, I don't disagree with any of that. There were like some bright spots, but I think maybe later on in Survivor, we get spoiled with really fun tribals, and that's my favorite part of the episodes. And they were a lot of really boring tribals where it's like, there was no question about what was going to happen. Like, they didn't say anything interesting at tribal. It was just like, okay, well, next episode.
The Aaron boot, well, I would say the chicken boot because of how he goes out, and the Aaron boot with the fact that PG and Jamie are still sitting in there laughing at everything, and Jeff's actually very clearly upset at, oh, wow, you guys are still laughing at this. I think outside of that, I do agree that the pre-merge tribals are, putting it lightly, not the best. I also do agree that the pre-swap is probably the worst part of the season because the swap doesn't last long, and the way they actually did the swap this season, I actually like that mechanic that they added to it. I also like the mechanic of, hey, since we're not going to do Exile Island this time, let's just have him kidnap, and we'll figure out how to do the idol that way. I do feel like that built the merge storyline up. You know, I don't think that it was the most compelling television in the moment, but as the season progressed and we're getting closer and closer to the merge, and we know where the idols are, and we're getting, you know, Todd's tribe trying to throw this challenge so that James can idol out. I think they want to idol out Jamie at that point. I do think that is compelling. This season absolutely runs into, and I've talked about this at least the last 2 or 3 days, the recruitment era bullshit. And recruitment era bullshit is a lot. Recruitment era bullshit is people not knowing what the game is. James refers to the immunity idol, I think twice, as the immunization thing. The fact that there are just there's so many people here that it's very clear have never watched the show before. And and I think that's what does drag down the pre-merge of at least the last 3 to 4 seasons that I've watched, we're just like, okay, yeah, we're getting rid of all this cannon fodder, but also we're getting rid of people that didn't know what was going on anyway. And there's not going to be many people that do know what's going on at the merge, but at least there's one or two to keep things interesting. I know that, this is highly looked at as both a great season and a great era for Survivor. Do you think that the era as a whole is overrated because of, people look at just the merge and they just kind of abandon the fact that these casts outside of a few folks are not best? Either one can go. I know that was a lot, but
it's a mix for me because there's certain bits of the cast and certain people that went too early, in my opinion. I would have loved to seen Aaron come back.
Aaron.
Yeah. I think of him especially because he got royally fucked over and then never came back again. I mean, I still have the hot take that James is probably one of my top 10 worst players of all time. I mean, you look at every single
disagree with that
done, they bring him in just as a hot piece of meat. I mean, that's literally all he's good for.
Yeah, keep on talking. Don't.
Sorry, I just saw the thing pop up in my scroll moment. Just but no, James, yeah, literally, like you said, he doesn't understand what's going on. He gets blindsided with 2 idols in his pocket.
Final 7.
It was final 7 that he goes out?
Final 7.
Literally, I mean, you play them like then and one other time, and you guaranteed yourself to make final 5 at least. So, I mean, I don't understand why you don't do that. But again, you have an idiot player like that that's just going out there. And then, yeah, he's just doing stupid shit all the time and just getting pissed off at everything.
Carly.
Go ahead, Carly.
Sorry. I understand what both of you are saying, but unfortunately, I think that 2 players that we know for a fact were recruited and don't know anything about Survivor, James and Courtney, were the most compelling characters of the season.
That's true.
So it's how can I really be mad that they were recruited when they were probably the most interesting part of the entire season for as far as creating storylines, being interesting, witty commentary.
I think Courtney adapted the best though also. And you look at Courtney in this game, you look at Courtney during her next appearance, and she realized what she needed to do in the game, whereas James just was there.
Yeah. I don't think that James adapted it. Oh yeah. Yeah, through 3 seasons.
I don't think he learned.
No.
I don't think James ever learned. And I do say that Courtney 2.0, despite the fact that she gets a shit edit, I do think for me is better, whatever better means. James 1.0 is probably the best version of James because in Micronesia, not a big fan. And Here's Versus Villains, he's basically a villain. And Amanda, who we'll touch on Amanda later because I think we all have opinions on Amanda as a player as a whole. The other problem that this era kind of runs into, the recruitment era, is it comes off as Trader Season 1. And what I mean by that is, for anyone that was listening yesterday or whenever you listen to the Fiji one, some people come off as, especially jury-wise, overly pissed off at things like lying. And I think that this season we actually got the inverse, where we have Amanda sitting at the end hoping that people will be more pissed off at Todd for lying and her trying to throw him under the bus. And in reality, people, the jury, at least most of them, kind of looked at her as hey, can you stop pouting and just tell us what happened in the game? I do think that James and Denise were not 2 of those people. I think that James and Denise were definitely going to try to vote for the person they felt told the truth the most, which is why they voted for Courtney. But it just, especially with Fiji and this, I just got Trader Season 1 vibes of people being overly angry or trusting that people would be overly angry, against someone they were sitting next to you. Do you guys think that's a fair comparison?
I mean, I definitely see it. Denise is a weird situation also because she got caught up in her own lies. After
I called her a hypocrite while we were watching.
it's like you're literally like talking in the finale about how you lost your job, in which that was just a twisting completely of the situation. You changed jobs and then tried to get your old job back. You never actually lost your job. So, granted, I've got a whole entire like hatred towards Denise for other reasons. I mean,
For other reasons,
he literally gave me COVID. So I mean,
Carly.
Me is confused.
Oh no, I've met Denise a couple times as well, and we'll talk about that too.
Okay.
No, Carly, what do you feel about that comparison to the Trader season 1?
Oh yeah, I think it's fair. It's like very much like people playing emotionally, like based on feelings. How you made me feel is most important for the vote. Which I do agree though, it was like a weird inverse with Amanda, where I think if she just would have taken some ownership of her game before PG forced her to, we could have seen a very different outcome in the season. And we could have seen what I think is probably the most correct outcome, I think.
And that's we can just segue right into the Amanda Kimmel of it all, because Amanda is probably her and Todd are the best players on the season, and Amanda is the one that does orchestrate the James vote. Todd doesn't even try to take credit for it. It's even said like you went along with Amanda to get rid of James. I do feel like if Amanda, and this is Amanda's story arc for the next 2 seasons, of if she just gets there and doesn't pout and doesn't cry and, just owns up to a lot of stuff, she probably turns into a 2-time winner. Well, I don't know if she would make it to Micronesia if she had won, but there are 2 different times that she could have won the game that she didn't, because I call her pout face online, which is very rude, but like she does. She pouts a lot, and PG actually calls her out on it and says, every time you look at me, it's just like you just have the same little sad look on your face. It's like, yeah, every single time that Amanda does anything this season, she's pouting, she's crying. When they vote out Denise, even though she sits there and tells Denise, I'm gonna keep you tonight, no matter what. I just don't know where these other 2 are gonna go. How do you think that's like? How do you feel? How am I trying to phrase this? You are going to backstab this person. You know you're going to backstab this person. You are lying to them. When they go on the jury, the worst thing you can do is just kind of say, oh, well, yeah, I lied, but I'm so sorry, and I feel so bad about it. It's like, just say it was a game, move, like what you just saw Todd do with Jean Robert, and what Courtney, did with everyone that would listen. What are our thoughts on Amanda this season? Carly, we'll start with you.
I think, well, just overall, I think Amanda is an excellent Survivor player with no public speaking skills. Like, I think if after this season, if Amanda would have taken like 1-2 week public speaking course, Micronesia could have ended very differently for her. Like, she just does not know. I think part of it is maybe she gets nervous because she just doesn't answer the questions, or she doesn't answer them well. In the pouting is the problem. If she just took ownership for her game, I think she would have won, because really her and Todd's game are completely identical, especially once merge hits. They do every single move together, except she makes the plan to take out James, arguably the biggest move of the game, the guy with 2 idols. Had he played them that night, first one and then the second one, he would have been in final 5, like, and probably could have even won out from there because he was very good at challenges. So I think if she could have just spoken and like made that point clear to the jury, just said it straight out, this is what happened right from the start, and not had to be forced to say that by PG later, I think she might have had the votes to get there. I think really all 3 of the finalists played together once jury hit and did everything together, except that was her one thing to stand out, and Courtney's one thing to stand out was just making it past the beginning. So like it would have been between them instead of between Courtney and Todd if she had just said what
and I honestly feel worse for her in Micronesia, and I'll talk about that tomorrow, but spoilers, I think Ozzy really tanks her game at Final Tribal. But here, I feel less because I sat here saying like, oh my God, like she's doing the worst. And it doesn't help that Todd is doing, being the ultimate bullshit artist, and Courtney's being her genuine, I don't care self. Amanda sitting next to them, I feel like I would sit there and be like, I can't vote for this person. And I honestly think the only reason Eric does vote, because one of the questions that she did actually like put emphasis into is because Eric like doubled down on I thought it was it's a no-brainer if you vote out someone of 2 idols. She's like, no, I get that, but it's still scary because if you vote out Todd, my person in this game, I have to start all over again at Final 6. So I think I do kind of understand why Eric would vote for her in that situation. John, is this the best version of Amanda that we are going to get, or do you think that down the line Amanda gets better?
Okay. Yes and no. Because I will say that because in ranking her 3, her heroes versus villains by far pisses me off the most. But I will say she played a phenomenal game during this time. But like Carly said, she just couldn't talk her way into anything pretty much and got in her own way. I will say that during Fan versus Faves, I feel she played a great game there as well. And again, if it was a Final 3, she just would have lost outright to Suri.
Yeah.
That's an entire different story.
I'm so looking forward to tomorrow and being heartbroken again at Final 3.
But like between Amanda and Parvati for Micronesia, like if Amanda could have articulated it, there's really not.
Yeah.
Suri gone, it's up in the air, but Amanda cannot speak.
Amanda can't speak,
exactly.
and
it was such a close vote that time too. And I mean, yeah, I definitely feel she played a better game than Courtney. She deserves second place at least over Courtney, in my opinion. I feel that the 2 people that were running the show the most were her and Todd. And Todd had a better FTC. So my opinion, I felt Todd should win based upon those given circumstances. And yes, and so that means I would say, yeah, this probably is the best Amanda, but Fans versus Faves is a close second.
And bringing up that final, jumping to the merge real quick, outside of John Robert, I feel like everyone that makes the merge has a very compelling, even Jamie, even though she gets voted out first in the merge, I think every one of these people could potentially win in a Final 3 situation in the season, with the exception of John Robert, because he has antagonized and more everyone in the game. I do feel like James is a threat. I do feel like Denise, no matter what she's sitting there saying, like, oh yeah, my tears wouldn't have affected anything and they still would have voted for him. I'm like, no, your tears would have also affected stuff because it wouldn't have come off as pouting. I think that PG would have a great storyline. Jamie, Eric, who am I missing? Frosty. I mean, everyone loved Frosty. So, like, yeah. I feel like outside of Jean Robert, we have a merge here where even though I feel like this season, Fiji and Cook Islands, I feel like they do telegraph who the winner is, at least on these rewatches. I do feel like watching it this time around, I was trying to pick out things that other people were doing. It's like, okay, this person could win. Do you guys agree with that? Am I crazy?
Is that a crazy? You were completely right. I mean, even if it's not the winner, you're at least figuring people out that are like right there at the end. Like you had, like you said in the previous season, you had a Yao Man, who, if he didn't get taken out at 4, I definitely saw him being the winner. But in this season, it's not like I saw Denise being a winner, but I easily saw Amanda and I saw Todd being there at the end. I could have seen a James being there at the end if he. I mean, I'm not saying him winning. I'm just saying.
Well, no, I don't think it's crazy to say that James would win because
his edit was.
People gave Courtney points for being honest, and that is one thing that James was doing the entire time. He was being honest with folks. And hey, don't fuck this up because if we just stay the course, we'll be fine. Carly?
I think anyone could have won because I don't think anyone played exceptionally like this season. It was a lot of like very obvious votes, just like, it was like for most of it was like a pagong situation. Like,
Yeah.
they just stuck together, they all worked together. The only thing that I thought ever really shook up anything was obviously the Jean Robert, but like, was that really rocking the boat very much? And then the James situation, which was like Amanda's move. So I think, like, other than that, like, nothing, you know what I mean? It was like a very straightforward game of Survivor, game of numbers.
I mean,
Yeah,
taking John Robert out, I mean, as much as we all hate him, he was a smart guy. He's a poker player. I mean, I've seen him win lots of.
He's a bad boy.
I'm not even getting into that. I mean, he knows how to win tournaments by lying and doing things like that. So, I mean, taking him out when you get the chance and not letting him talk his way into getting further. I mean, you could say that somewhat is rocking the boat or making somewhat of a move, but
right. But I just mean that everybody was on the same page.
Oh, everybody's on the same page at least. Anyway,
yeah. Like a huge,
I mean, it was a blind side, really, only to Jean Robert.
Well, and it was also to Denise because she voted for PG, I believe, that round.
Yeah.
And she was, my thing with Denise, and we'll jump there next. Denise runs into this problem that a lot of people in this era of Survivor run into, where it's like they don't know when to jump ship. Everything all right?
Yep, I had a stress ball in my hand and I just popped it, and it was like liquid. Sorry.
Denise does not know when to jump ship, to the point where we've got people from basically 6 to 4 saying, "Hey, just come with us. Just come with us. Come at 7. Just come with us." And then at 4, she's sitting there with a dumb look on her face when she realizes I'm screwed. Like, no matter, unless I win immunity, I am screwed, and it's all my fault. And she's like, "Oh, maybe I'll just go talk to Amanda to see if she'll be willing to vote with me." It's like, no, you should have been doing this forever ago, especially because you keep getting left out of votes. If she was voting along with everybody else, I feel like it would be a little bit different. But she even says, "Oh yeah, I'm being left out of votes. I'll keep betting on the bottom of the totem pole." It's like, yeah, what do you think that means? And then you're purposely antagonizing, but PG takes her on the one reward challenge, and then twice in a row she does not take PG, which she's not obligated to do that. Like, that's fine. But when you have sat there and established, "Hey, I am on the bottom of the totem pole," why are you not taking people that could potentially help you out in a situation when you were not in that situation? And Denise was so frustrating this season because it was so clear that this was always going to happen to her. They were never going to let Denise get to the end. They all had their different reasons that they were saying on camera, but I don't think that any of the three of them would have ever turned on each other, period. I think they put a lot of stuff in the edit to make you think, "Hey, we might vote out Todd." Those people were never voting out Todd, because I do think that, like all three of us have basically said, that final 3 is actually a toss-up. It's not like Todd is like powerful finalist that we have no chance at beating. So I do think their reads are right-ish. But Carly, what were your thoughts on Denise, especially in the end game portion of this?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember which vote it is where afterwards she says she might have made the biggest mistake by not flipping. Who was it? Was it Eric?
It might have been the Eric vote. It might have been
Eric
Eric
or Frosty? I can't remember, but like, she was right. It was the biggest mistake of her game, because it became apparent that she was on the bottom of that alliance, that she was number 4. They were not keeping her to the end. And but there was also a point later on where I felt like Amanda should have flipped. I do think Amanda should have taken out Todd I think she should have voted with PG and maybe got Denise on board at that point, voted out Todd, then turned back with the girls and voted out PG. And then I think Amanda if Amanda public speaking again would have been an issue.
Yeah.
Like, if I were Amanda, I would be thinking my game is identical to Todd. I don't want to sit next to him at the end. So that's what I would have done. But the question was about Denise. I agree. She didn't know when to pull the trigger. And then she never tried to do it again. Like, even when she realized, like, hey, maybe this might have been a mistake. I don't know. We'll see. Like, she never tried to make anything else happen.
Yeah, she was. I won't say complacent. Oh no, I will say complacent.
Complacent.
Yeah, she was complacent.
To get 4th place or to have someone bring her along to 3rd place. She wasn't doing anything to get herself there at that point. She was
Yeah,
just along for the ride.
John.
Yeah,
Without talking about her getting you sick, because
no, she was just there. I mean, that again, I never felt as if she was going to win unless she was getting like the woe is me, I'm a lowly cafeteria worker pity vote type of thing, and going off of story, not off of actual any gameplay. But because I mean, there was so many times in which she was just there, like as an extra member, in which she never we never heard her really like trying to initiate like the game.
Yeah, her best moment is when it's so goofy when she's doing karate with all the kids, and it's just like, I feel like as a Chinese man or woman in that situation watching this white lady do karate in front of me, I would have laughed my ass off. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, you're good. But no, you're right. I mean, the memorable moments of Denise are weird moments. Like, she never was like, she won a couple times, but she was never like the challenge beast, or she wasn't the social person or the strategic mind.
She was James's crush for some reason.
She knew how to make food, I guess.
that confession where James is sitting there like, oh man, if she was younger, she could get it. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like, this is not a knock on her, but like, have you seen the women out there this season? They are.
No, there were some good-looking women out there that season. I will say that,
James.
but not Denise.
Stop.
He likes the mullets, I guess.
So, and going from Denise to James, because you said that you think that James is top 10 worst players. I'm not going to say all that. I will say that James is top 10 overrated players, and top 10 like, hey, we'll bring him back next season for Micronesia. We really don't need to bring him back versus heroes versus villains. And I think across 3 seasons, someone in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm fairly certain he has 0 individual immunities. And people keep hyping him up to be this challenge beast, but if that's the case, where's the proof in that? I understand, pre-merge he can do a lot of stuff, but pre-merge Ozzy can do a lot of stuff too, and pre-merge Crazy Joe can do a lot of stuff too. But for some reason, James is all because of the way he looks, and I get that being built. I think that even his content this season is not necessarily the most positive. I think that there's a lot of, compared to John Robert, he's going to be the good person in that situation. But James comes off as a bully for a lot of this season. The only time I really sided with him was during the swap where the girls are throwing the challenge. But outside of that, it's like, man, I really don't vibe with him this time around. And I absolutely don't vibe with him in Heroes vs. Villains. Carly, what about James do you feel warranted, at least in the production's eyes, 2 times, being a 2-time returnee?
I do think James is an entertaining personality. Like, you don't have to be a good Survivor player to be interesting to watch. We've seen that how many times. And I think that's what he brings to the table. I do think obviously he's beneficial to have on your tribe in the beginning of the game, and that's why he's going to make it through the beginning of the game. If you 9 times out of 10 you put him on Survivor, he's going to make it through the pre-merge because he's really helpful with challenges in the beginning, because a lot of times the beginning challenges you need a strong guy to carry shit. That's what it comes down to.
You do.
And so in that regard, he is good to have on the game for that. And then James will argue with you, so he's good television in that way. When they were throwing the challenge, James just doesn't let them get away with throwing the challenge. He's not like, oh, I don't want them to vote me out, let me not say anything. He immediately gets back and starts arguing with them. So it's that's compelling TV. Even if he's not a great Survivor player, he does make interesting TV.
Yes.
And it's still, he's not over the top with it either.
It is genuine. I feel like that's who he is.
He's genuine. He comes off as like a genuine guy. So there is like a level of you want to root for James, even though he's not good at Survivor. It's like, oh, like I want you to be better. Like I want you to figure this out.
Yeah, I want you to have the growth.
To play your idol.
I was just
I want you to play your idol.
And you're right. He's never won an individual immunity.
He's never he's never won. John, just piggybacking off the question I just asked, why is James a hero? This is because everyone that's been listening to this, like I've led into All Stars by continuing to break because I knew that was coming. Hey, why is this first going to be an All Star? We're going to Heroes versus Villains by the end of this upcoming week. Yeah. What do you think happens in this season specifically that says this is one of the people we need back as a hero for Heroes versus Villains?
Because he was honest and he fought back against the adversity that was Jamie and PG. That's literally what he's got going for him as a hero. Literally, the fact that he survived those two tribals pretty much. Well, it was a tribal and they won the immunity when they wanted him to throw it.
When he was trying his best to throw, and he couldn't. Because Denise sucks.
I think Heroes versus Villains, though, really, like the casting comes down to like inherent personality traits that people consider heroic or villainous. Because there's a lot of people who did not do anything that heroic or that villainous, and
we've talked about so far. We've done Danielle. We did Danielle, and I don't remember who said what, but basically, I think we came down to Danielle voted out Terry, America's sweetheart, so she's got to be a villain. Meanwhile, Candace stuck to her guns, even though she betrayed I2. She's got to be a hero because she tried her best to get back with her allies. She never wavered. I think I do agree that I feel like James is probably looked at as a hero more because of the challenge aspect, which Carly, I know it's especially brought up. I know the first time James is entertaining television. I'll never say that. I do feel like there's a lot of Survivor fans that don't rewatch seasons and just have this perception of certain players in their heads based off of one, that the first time they watch it, but two, what the internet tells them. That's why I love doing this, because I can rewatch these things and be like, no, that's not how this went down ever. Because one of the popular things is it was Todd's idea to get rid of James. Thankfully, watching it this time around and seeing everyone give credit to Amanda for it, I do feel like that's one of the things that revisionist history has kind of changed. And I'm glad that at least here, everyone gives credit to Amanda for that situation. I want to finally get to this question because it's been sitting on the screen for a while.
Yeah.
Despite where they finished, which Zanhu tribe member was the best player and had the greatest potential to be a winner?
The second part of that is the tougher part because I don't see many. I mean, I almost want to say Jamie as the biggest potential to be a winner. In this grouping and everything, her and PG had the strongest game mindset, and had they not been pagonged, then I can easily see them possibly making it to the end. Jamie, and then if I include PG as a 1A type of thing. I'm still also a little jaded on PG's second game, so that's why I don't want to include her as much. But yeah,
you think that she stole Abby Maria's thing? Carly?
I'm thinking really hard about it too. Like, if we're looking at this season as like an isolated thing, if PG pulls out another immunity win, that last one that she loses, like she has a compelling story if she gets to the end to win. But like, generally speaking, do I think PG's a great player? No, like she's not good at making people like her. Like, it's just not her strong suit.
She's good at Sudoku.
You know what I mean? Like how many people, like the other members of her original tribe were able to infiltrate or at least make friends when like PG did not. Like, she just wasn't able to do that. So it's like,
it's so hard to say. I don't know.
No
I try
idea.
not to fantasy book stuff just because I feel like we kind of. But I would just to answer the question, I would say Jamie only because they clocked her as the person running that tribe, and if that's the case, if they already have this perception in their head to begin with, if we let Jamie get along in the game and she somehow goes to the end, now the perception is we just let the biggest threat from the other tribe get to the end. And if she speaks well, what she does show herself to be able to be articulate and speak, and she's a college student. I think it's her occupation in the season. I do think that probably let's say Jamie. We're not going to touch on outside the game Jamie Eric stuff, but inside the game, I do think that was a very fun, like, one episode story. I mean, I know that they ended up getting married or whatever. One episode story arc that do kind of bring up the reunion of, this blossoming relationship. Woman is the one running the duo. I don't think we had seen that much with showmances up until this point, where it's shown that the woman is running the duo. Where Eric is kind of going along with everything and voting wrong, I believe, at one point. And the whole scene with them in the water and him saying he's a virgin, and she's just like, right before that, she says, I can't find any faults with him. And that's him saying he's which is like, obviously there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way that it's framed it's hilarious. We're going to touch on Courtney, and then we're going to touch on John Robert. Courtney is one of my favorite characters on the show ever. And I do understand, for me, my perception has always been she's on the villain tribe because she's mouthy about the Jean Robert thing, which is probably something that production thought about at that point. I do feel like once Jean Robert goes, though, Courtney does actually become sort of a villain moving forward after, mainly in her confessionals.
I'm yelling at Jeff.
I think that Courtney is such a compelling character, such a compelling player, and the fact that I'm not gonna say she almost won, but like she got second place in a season where there was a very apparent top two, and she got second place in front of one of those people. Why? How do I want to phrase this? I guess, what are our thoughts on Courtney?
I mean, she won an individual immunity.
Did Jean Robert do that? I don't think so.
Yeah, she did what a bunch of people that we thought were going to win a whole bunch couldn't do.
Did James win one?
No, exactly. James didn't win one either. Granted, she then becomes Sandra 2.0 in a bunch of other situations in which, like, she's the sit-out queen. But no, Courtney becomes that personality. On first watch, I did not like Courtney just because it was almost too much sass. But going back on rewatch, I really enjoyed her sass. Like, I would laugh at half the things she was saying because I could actually go along with her train of thought at this point and actually try and get in her head a little bit more.
I think Courtney's really entertaining. I think she was a bright spot in the pre-merge, really. Like, her sass, her trying to cut that rope was the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in my life.
And she actually cried during it.
It was painful to watch, but like, I was like, okay, at least it's like eliciting some sort of emotion, even if that like emotion was like pain and discomfort. I don't know. Courtney's funny. Courtney's someone who really should not have made it to merge and somehow did, and then was not bad at the game once she got to that point. So she was like a fun surprise, and I do think her personality is unique. Like, it stands out amongst however many hundred of people have played now. Like, people know Courtney and remember her personality because no one has been like quite as like sassy or as like still likable while being that sassy. No one else has told Jeff to F off, and we're still like, that's pretty funny. Like,
I've got my comparison to Courtney, and
if you say the person I'm thinking about, then I might scream.
But they're very like angel and demon version of each other too. And I mean, that person is Sugar.
Okay. Explain, please.
If you look at Sugar again, she doesn't give a fuck half the time, and she doesn't mind telling people the way it is. But Sugar is more looked at as that like the nice
angel
person.
and
she's the person that you can bring home to your parents. Whereas Courtney's like, yeah, fuck you. And if you were to bring her home to mom and dad, they'd be like, are you sure about that, son? Type of thing.
I love her. I love her, mom.
Exactly.
I was going to compare her, going back to Trader Season 1, Kate Chastain.
Oh my God.
Someone that just does not want to be there and just somehow just continues to survive the entire time. Kate is trying to, like, basically begging to go at a certain point. And I won't say Courtney is begging to go, but like she says, every time I would survive, it's just like, I can't believe this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And I think it's because like the Traitors has come out since the last time I watched this season. I'm always trying to compare things to other things I've watched recently. And that is the vibe that I got this time of just, Courtney doesn't care. Courtney is admitting to not caring. Even during Final Tribal, she's basically saying, oh yeah, like, I didn't really care. And I do feel like Kate was the same way in the for anyone that hasn't watched the Traitors, please go watch the Traitors. It's great. It's good shit. But wrapping up the Courtney thing, I do think because of the interviews that she has done post Survivor, where she talks about how she thought about quitting a fair few times because Prod and Amanda and Todd were not being receptive to the whole she feels uncomfortable with Jean Robert thing. And this is bleeding into a couple of different things, but like Todd annoyed the shit out of me for most of the pre-merge and merge because he's being so bitchy about the fact that Courtney wants Jean Robert gone for actual like legitimate reasons. Yeah, we're in season 15, so like it's not played for laughs like it was in season 5, but it's also not, we haven't reached the season 39 extremes yet of this. But Todd and Amanda, but more specifically it's Todd because he's the one talking on camera about it. It annoyed me at the fact that he was just saying like she needs to get over it. Like, I'm trying to win here, and he's telling her to her face like, "Hey, John Barrett is good for my game, so he has to stay." And she's like, "I don't want him here. Oh, you're screwing up my plans." But I felt for her. She's an entertaining player and all that. I felt for her pre-merge because you could tell how much she just did not want this man there. And I want to, and this is not, we don't have to go deep into this because it's do you feel like specifically with Todd, is he in the game wise? Does he have an obligation to listen to her? And Carly, we'll start with you.
I feel like he could have been more sensitive to her feelings about it. And like, listen, I get it. It's a game for $1 million. Like, he said inappropriate things, but like, was he a real threat or a danger to her? I don't know. I wasn't there. Like, I can't say. But do I think he should have had like a conversation being like, hey, like, I acknowledge this is how you feel, but like, let's also talk about the implications for your game too if we get rid of him right now when we need him as a number. And like, I maybe think that like she might have needed to like talk that out loud too, and just to see like, hey, like, where do I, like, how do the votes going forward look if we do get rid of him? Like, I don't know. I think it's messy. I think, again, like, wasn't sure if he's like a real threat. Do I think she at least was owed an apology from John Robert after the season? Absolutely. Like, you know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah.
It's a game for $1 million.
Yeah.
And it didn't from what we saw, I didn't feel like there was real danger or threat, but like definitely uncomfortable and like
Uncomfortable. Like him trying to
uncalled
grab her in
for.
the tent and everything. Like, yeah.
I don't even remember that part.
Oh yeah.
Oh
There's a whole scene
shit.
where he's like trying to like pull Amanda and him because he needs them to make him feel warm. And Courtney's like, I'm like 12 pounds. Why does he need me to keep him warm? And so they
Yeah.
start sleeping separate from each other because she feels uncomfortable with him in the.
Yeah, now that you say that, was that but can you remind me, was that before or after she overheard that conversation
That
with
was
him and
after.
James? Yeah, see, like okay. Uh maybe production should have had a conversation with him at that point.
Okay.
Like for sure. Like
John.
like
This, I mean, yes, he had an obligation, but we've seen, unfortunately, time and time again, in which people just didn't, either whether they didn't care or they didn't think it was as serious as the person was letting on, and they tried putting the game in front of them. Like Carly said, they're playing for that $1 million, and Todd wasn't seeing physical things. He's just hearing Courtney as pretty much bitch about it. So he's just thinking that Courtney's just being whiny and just wants this annoying person gone. Where in her tone changed a bit once he was gone.
Yeah. Courtney became a fun TV villain at that point because now she's antagonizing people that are not Jean Robert.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was gonna say too, though, I do think that like when a cast goes on a TV show, you, especially one where there's a cameras are there, production is there 24/7, you go in with the thought process that like production is here to protect you and the other players. So like I would blame at that point production more than I would blame Todd. Like if she was uncomfortable and felt unsafe and was voicing this to production, it's their job to do something about it.
Yeah.
Hard to really blame Todd.
I do. This is not funny, but it's funny because when we get to season 39 and everything that happens with that, the one person's opinion that we'd never see about anything dealing with that is Tommy. And I do think that that's a big jump that we get from 15 to 39 because even in 15, we get Todd's point of view from things that Courtney is telling him. And I think that's, in season 5, we get Brian's everything about the whole Ted Gandia thing. Here, we just get, how Todd feels about what Courtney's saying. And in 39, we don't hear anything about what Tommy has to say about anything. And I do think that, for better or worse, production got very good at that. Like, hey, we can't have our winner speaking anything about anything negative going on in this game at this point. And I just wanted to touch on that. The location and the challenges. The location and challenges. One, obviously, I think the reason that people love China so much is because of the location, but I also think that the challenges are they're shot very cheesily with like the slow-mo and some of them. But I enjoy the fact that we have one season unique to this. I don't feel like we need a whole bunch of China seasons because then it gets played out just like how Fiji has gotten played out. I do think that just having one China season where everything's in slow-mo when something cool happens, the camps are not, beach heavy. I enjoy that. And, I feel like more than anything else, that's why people put China on a pedestal because it's not. I'm not going to sit here and say it's overrated or anything, but it's what the kids say mid. I'd say it's right above that. It is. I'm sorry. We're all old enough here. Don't laugh at me. But it's right above that. Just like, okay, yeah, it's a fun. This is the type of season that this is a season that I show friends when I'm like, hey, this is the show that I watch. Here's Survivor China because it's not super gameplay heavy. And there's fun characters. And yes, the pre-merge is a lull, but like you'll learn very fast that most pre-merges are not the best. Overall, as we start to near the end of this, what do we feel about Survivor China? Because I want to ask you guys' opinions on just anything that we haven't touched on yet. But what are our actual views on this season as a whole? And John, you can go first with this.
You were just bringing up the challenges. I mean, some of the challenges in this season I loved, and then we never get to see anything close to it again. I mean, you have them actually having to do teamwork. I go back and in my head, I have that stupid drum comp in my head, and they're having to work together, bouncing the ball back and forth. It's a super simple competition, but it was difficult to enact pretty much. I mean, because you had to have them actually talking to each other and working things out. The challenge that Courtney won, balancing on top of the drum barrel. You had a lot of fun. Yeah, the dragon drums or the oil drums there. Yeah. But I mean, you had a lot of fun competitions that you don't get to see in a lot of the other seasons. And I mean, like you said, this is a good starter season for Survivor newbies because, like you said, there's a lot of characters. I mean, heck, even though he was first boot, I mean, Chicken was even
Chicken has an all-time boot.
And Chicken himself was a character. So, yeah.
And Sister Christian, Carly.
I think Survivor China is. I agree. It's not spectacular, but I think if you have a friend who really wants to get into watching Survivor, it's a necessary season to watch because so many people return. So it's if you want all of the lore and all of the understanding for future seasons that are much better than Survivor China, you have to watch Survivor China. It's like a building block you need for later on. But I don't necessarily think if none of these people returned, would I rush out to tell people to watch Survivor China? Probably
Yeah.
not.
Going off of that, what are anything that we haven't touched on that you want to touch base with this season?
Can you pull up my notes?
I mean, like I said earlier, there's certain people that I would have loved to seen come back.
Well, don't get to that yet because I have a question at the end of this that
I was just saying that didn't come back. Oh. But yes.
My first two notes were from the very first episode, and the two where we touched on the location a little bit, and it made me miss different locations a lot. And you were right, that China feels like a character in the season. All of their rewards are very based on the location. More than a lot of seasons, you really get a feel for the location, which I loved. One of the reward being a local family coming in to teach them how to fish. I really liked that. It felt very respectful of the culture and the location. So it made me miss. I'm over being in Fiji all the time, to be honest.
I think most people are.
There's a level now. New Survivor takes itself a little bit too seriously, I think, where it's this was a nice refresher to be old Survivor was serious, but there's a level to it that's the challenges are still hard, but they're a little bit more silly. They're more equalizing for James couldn't win them all. You know what I mean? That's anyone can. Courtney won a competition. They feel more equalizing.
They're org challenges almost, where anyone can.
Right, and maybe it's because reality TV is so new in these earlier seasons too. At least this style of reality TV, where it's there's a lot of just little fun interactions and segments that feel kind of silly. That I don't know, take you out of the game in a way that's fun, because they do spend so much time at camp. 3 days between rounds, and New Survivor, I guess, doesn't have that amount of time either. So there maybe is less fun time, but the people seem they're having so much fun playing Survivor on Survivor China in older seasons versus newer seasons, which I kind of miss.
John?
It doesn't seem fun anymore. It feels like really hard work now.
You're exactly right. I mean, I'm wondering how much of that is the location. They're not being stranded on a beach where fishing is the only thing that they're able to do. It's intriguing I mean, even though they're going that long in between stuff, that they don't seem as starving as they are now in the newer seasons. I mean, the scenery was absolutely beautiful. Like Carly said, China itself was a character that we got to experience along with everything else. So that plus some of these bigger personalities really just helped lend to just everything being bigger and brighter.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
One thing I kept thinking as I was watching this is I'm getting so much closer to the HD seasons because, like, I'm not one of these people who says, oh, man, like, HDs. But when you watch now 15 straight days of non-HD Survivor and that's the only thing you're watching, it's a stress on the eyes. So I'm excited that by Tuesday, I'll be back in HD.
I was going to say, what's the first one? Yeah.
Huh?
What's the first one in HD?
Gabon's the first season with HD.
Interesting.
Okay, final two questions that I ask at the end of all of this. Question one. Okay, so once again, by my count, I'm fairly certain it's James, Amanda, Courtney, and PG are the four people that come back, right?
Yes.
Were they the right four people? Should there have been others before? We're not talking about 50 right now.
Yeah.
Just are they the right four people? Would you have brought all four of them back? And should there have been others that should have been brought back at some point or another? We will take account that Todd had his whole thing, but like I'm obviously he's better now and all that. So
exactly. Like I mean, I would love for Todd to come back, and Todd was not in the proper mindset to come back. Should have been there for 40. I felt he was good enough for 40 at that point. In terms of being in the proper mental state.
Oh yeah.
But I think he would have been interesting to see with that group of characters at Winners at War. But yes, we talked about PG being one of the better ones from her original tribe. Granted, she did not do well during her other appearance. Amanda did. She was right to bring back. Courtney was right to bring back. James, I feel they wanted to bring him back for redemption and to see if he did anything stupider than get voted out with 2 idols.
He's got meta back next time.
Yeah. I mean, half the cast got fucking medevac.
Yeah, medevac in Micronesia.
That next season, so. But.
Carly.
Yeah, I would have loved to seen Aaron or Eric come back for a second season also.
We won't talk about Eric now, but Carly.
Yeah, like I don't feel like there's anyone else that I feel like super strongly. I think Amanda deserved her second chance in redemption after that final tribal because they won.
Okay, John, did that happen on your end?
My AirPod.
Oh, okay. I thought it was my laptop.
No, I think Amanda was a perfect choice to bring back for redemption. I agree. Like James deserved an opportunity at redemption, and is like he's someone who's worth bringing back. I think he brings enough entertainment value. Courtney, obviously, good one to bring back, and then like PG is like.
America voted for her, so
right.
Like, we'll
how do you argue with that? And like, yeah.
Oh boy, we won't go there.
But also, like PG did have some like entertaining moments. She
did.
Similar to like James. She was not afraid to like call people out and speak her mind. And under different circumstances, she could have also done well a second time. So it's like,
yeah. So for me, I think I think the 4 that they brought back are the correct 4. These have a cap on it, so I'm not just carrying around scissors. There's a cap on this. I think that the four they brought back are the right 4 they should have brought back. I feel like outside of that, probably Todd, Todd wasn't one of the people that I was pining for Winners at War, but like I wouldn't have hated to see him on there. Anyone would have been better than Ben and Nick. So like, yeah, bring back Todd, and bring back a few of the other male winners that we have had up to this point. Jamie. So I see about Jamie. I think that Jamie's very similar to like trying to think of someone from the past, someone like Cindy from Guatemala, where it's like, yeah, Cindy was fun, but I don't need another Cindy, and I don't need a second season of Cindy. I'm fine with just a Jamie moment here. I don't need more Jamie. I think she was a fun character.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Jamie's like one of those characters that's like maybe not super memorable. Could come back and do amazing, could come back and go early. It's like, but we have so many people like that. Where it's like, even though you think about like Kelly Wentworth wasn't it?
Or Monica Padilla.
Super memorable her first time around. Like she was fine, and then she comes back and like now Kelly Wentworth is like a huge name in Survivor. Everyone knows Kelly Wentworth, and I'm like, Jamie could have gone that trajectory if she came back. She could have came back and been first boot. It's like she didn't do anything that would like make me strongly believe that if she came back, it would be life changing. But also,
yeah, I feel like the premise of where they would have brought her back is she's the first person to ever play a fake idol or something. Like they would try to build that storyline up.
Mm-hmm.
Second question, for everyone that's been listening to all of this, I don't think anyone's going to come back from pre-33, but if there were a person from this season, whether they've returned already or not, that you would bring back for 50 from this season, who would it be?
Is there a theme?
For 50 is just all returnees. Like that's I don't think they have
rumor that it's legends. So
I mean, even if it's okay, so if it's legends, I still have my answer either way, but like, okay, so is there anyone from the season that has returned or not returned that you would want to see on 50?
Yeah, I'm personally enrolling Amanda Kimmel in a public speaking course at her local community college, and then I'm inviting her back.
Okay, there's a very different response that I have here, and because there's two parts to it. It's would I want to see somebody, and who do I expect to see be brought back? Because I could easily see them bringing back James, just because, again, it's James, and he's, again, that big name, even though he hasn't done anything. Amanda, I can easily see them bringing back Amanda. I'd be fine with that. I would love, like I said before, I'd love to see Todd do something in modern, new era Survivor, see what he can do with that. Because we keep forgetting that this is probably, the third season with the actual iteration of what the hidden immunity idol is. Second season of it.
Yeah, second season.
And because from before it was you could play it after the votes. And now it's the current rules, so you have to play it before the vote. Before the votes are read. But yeah, I don't see anybody else that I would want to come back.
I would say Todd, and I think my biggest reason for wanting Todd of everyone here is the simple fact that Todd was playing against, it's very Kim Spradlin-esque, where he is playing against a lot of people that don't know the game. As well as, Kim Spradlin in One World, which we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. She's playing against a lot of people that don't know the game. I would love to see Todd playing in a game where everyone knows how to play, or at least has some semblance of how the newer game is played. I do feel like, and that's one of the reasons I wanted Earl back for Winners at War, was because I wanted to see Earl play, even though Earl didn't even know how the game was played in Fiji because he didn't even watch the show. I want to see Todd versus people that are in the know, just to see how it works. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, Todd sucks. It's just like, okay, yeah, Todd lost, whatever.
Yeah.
As we come to the close, I'm gonna give Survivor China a 4 out of 5, which will put it so far. Okay, let's go to the list. I'm giving Survivor China a 4 out of 5. I'm gonna put it. God, I'm gonna put it in between Cook Islands and Africa of the first 15 seasons I've gone so far. So for those that have been watching, what is that? What season is this? This is China. Duh. From bottom to top, I have Thailand, All Stars, Fiji, Palau, Guatemala, Australian Outback, Africa, China, Cook Islands, Panama. Top 5 are Marquesas, Amazon, Borneo, Vanuatu, and Pearl Islands. I wish I could rate China higher, but like I said earlier, it's using Gen Z slang, but it's mid. Carly, I know you watch Survivor Australia. I don't know if John does, but do you have any comment to that? To this?
Oh, Australians! I'm so excited. I keep looking at Reddit, trying to like figure out who's going to be there, and I thinking about it. It's a lot of the people that, at least from Australian Survivor, that I would want to come back. The women, especially, they keep having babies, so I don't know which ones of them are going to be back. Because when I first heard it, I was like, oh, I would love to see Liz back, who won Australian Survivor Heroes versus Villains, but like she's pregnant right now. And
they start filming in September, I believe. So yeah,
right. Like, so that's not going to happen. And she would be like one of my number one choices, because I would like to see how she does without Shawnee and King George. And then for U.S. Survivor players, I am expecting they're going to have to be people who can, one, leave home for the length of an Australian Survivor season, which is.
Well, have you heard the rumor about what they're doing for that?
No.
They're not doing many days. They're doing like, it's going to be very short, and like shorter than current U.S. Survivor. That's the rumor. The rumor is
that's not true.
I hope it's not true.
I hope it's not true. That's one of the things about Australian Survivor. Yeah.
And is it going to be as physical as Australian Survivor?
They're longer periods.
I don't know about that. I just know the last reports were that the U.S. versus Australia version was this going to be like that Big Brother season that they did in January, where it's like where it's going to be short, because they're going to actually do a real season of Australian Survivor that they're going to film in January. So I feel like this is just going to be one of those, like a mini almost for those in the war community. I feel like this is going to be more of a mini, which I'm still going to watch it, but I don't feel like they're going to. And I feel like I feel like Johnny Fairplay is going to be there, because I think that him and George have a thing.
That was what I was going to say.
Oh, so you were going to say Fairplay?
I was hoping for like a real Australian Survivor season, and we just like drop some US people in there. So my thoughts were going to be, it's going to have to be people who can be there for a long time, and people who are, at least majority of the people, physically fit enough to handle Australian Survivor. But like, it doesn't, now you guys are making me think that that's not what it's going to be. So I don't know. Because if that was the case, I was going to say, okay, well, we're going to get like probably Joe, most likely.
No. Yeah.
Not that I want that, but like probably I expect Ozzy to call. I brought up Kelly Wentworth earlier. I'm highly anticipating Kelly at least getting a call. I don't know if she'll do it, but I expect her to get a call. Those were kind of the three that I had on the top of my mind that I expect to at least be contacted.
Well, as we know, everyone here at Nullified Take, we do a lot of Australian Survivor coverage. So I'm sure as the days progress, especially as we get closer to September when they're supposed to start filming. So like, we've basically got 2 months for us to like figure out who's going to be going down there, watching who goes ghost on the internet to see who's flying down to Australia. I am really excited to watch it. I do understand that, it being a shortened season might not be the exact same thing, but I'm also all right with that, only because my only qualm, and Carly knows this, my only qualm with Australian Survivor is there are way too many episodes, and the episodes are like 2 hours, but they're not actually 2 hours. And you can't stream it, so you have to like hook your laptop up to your TV to watch bad quality on Facebook. But like those are all like very nitpicky things. I do actually really enjoy Australian Survivor. You have seen someone like Malcolm. Yes, you bring.
Malcolm's on my list.
Malcolm hasn't overstayed his welcome. We haven't seen him since Game Changers, but like he wasn't around long enough in Game Changers for us to like be annoyed at another comeback. I think that we all have our thoughts on who we don't want to see on Australian Survivor at all. And it's basically just anyone that's come back and actually, we're not talking about China anymore. Carly and John, thank you so much for coming on and do this. You two, me and John were playing in a game when I asked him to do this. Carly, I reached out to you. I think you may have been second or third as far as people I reached out to and say, hey, when are we doing this? And I'm glad you picked this season in particular. I don't think we have Carly on the schedule for another season before this is done. John, I'm
getting ready to go to Europe.
I'm not on, but I'll be back. I'll come back anytime you want me to harass anybody.
Okay. But thank you both so much. Thank you everyone in the chat as always. I'm going to start Micronesia probably like midnight. Probably catch up on sports or something until then.
I can update on something for that, but yes.
And we will see you all on the other side.